everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and I'm here with Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright. Hello, everyone. I have a question, because I don't know if you've actually explained what Rash Pixel FM radio is.
I don't know that I have. I just snuck it in there many weeks ago, and it's just been floating around.
Yeah. What is this? Like, can I find you on the radio? Like, what?
No,
what
it's not on
this?
It's just rashpixel.fm. That's the URL. So you can go to rashpixel.fm. I'm building out the site right now, and it is it's just where all of my podcasts are, because there are a lot of podcasts that I do.
Yes.
And some of them cross over, and so you can we have topics that would benefit people to hear.
Okay, very good.
Other things, and that's it. And so that's just the home of the of Pete's growing podcast network. And so
awesome.
That's the label.
Thank you for the clarification, because I was thinking. I mean, it sounds like a radio.
It does, and it should
like a radio. Yeah, that's
very
great.
Exciting.
Well, very exciting.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now we can dig in.
Well, we're sort of digging in. So the digging in is we're going back to an old saw this week. Oh, my goodness. But before we do that, for real, head over to Take Control ADHD to get to know this show a little bit better. Listen to the show right there on the website. Of course, subscribe to the mailing list on the homepage, and you'll get an email with the latest episode each week. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD, and call us. Leave us a voicemail, 503-664-4ADD. Get your voice, your thoughts, and your questions on this very show. We would love to hear from you. Okay. So you were here last week. In my office.
I was in the stand-up office.
How'd that go for you?
It was great.
Yeah? You feel good after standing up for 2 days?
Yeah, feel great. Yeah, that didn't bother me at all.
Is that funny?
Well, I thought I might be tired. I thought, well, maybe I need a stool or something, but I didn't. No.
No, you did great.
It was good. No, but my voice didn't do so well at the end.
Well, there's a lot of recording. A lot of
recording. Yeah. A lot of fun stuff coming up here soon.
As we were working last week, we realized that it has been some time since we have gone back to our tolerations.
Sometime. I mean, I think it's been like years since we've talked about this. So we have some really loyal listeners who are probably going to know right off the bat like what we're talking about. But then I think there's probably some new listeners who are like, tolerations? What are you talking about? I don't even remember what the episode was that we talked about it. Yeah. You'll have to do some digging and maybe repost that on the show notes so people can get a reference.
I will. It was one of those that it was episode. Oh my goodness. What was it? I thought I would come up real quick. Oh, here it is. Tolerations. Boy, that was way back when. No, it doesn't come up right away.
No,
I have to dig it up.
Okay.
I have to dig it up. Horrible.
Well, and I am almost thinking we did a couple shows on it too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, it's been that long.
And we did the review a couple of weeks later.
Right.
And we had those blog posts where we were so open and vulnerable about all the things we weren't actually doing. And so
right.
We got to talking about tolerations in the context of ADHD, and what are the things that, how do our tolerations impact ADHD and vice versa?
Yes.
And thought it might be a good time to take a step back and review those tolerations.
Absolutely.
So where would you like to start?
Well, I think to give people that are new to the show that haven't listened to that episode, just to give you kind of an idea of what a toleration is, what the definition of it is. And this was introduced to me actually in my first coach training program that I did back in 2011. So that's why I know it was several years ago. I mean, here we are in 2015.
Man.
We talked about it. And I went to the first coach training program I went through was Coach U. And their definition is this. It's to tolerate means to allow the existence of something, to permit or to endure something, to put up with something. This implies that something or someone is less than desirable, less than ideal, and tends to drain a person's energy. A toleration can be a situation, a condition, or an influence of any kind that is allowed to exist, is put up with, or that is less than ideal. A toleration is often a hindering influence. So to kind of add to my 2 cents, I see a toleration as being a roadblock from moving forward towards your goals. And they often can make us feel stuck and not empowered, and also, tend to make us feel bad about ourselves if we're not taking care of the situation. The other thing I want to be clear about is that there are different degrees of tolerations, right? So there's really big tolerations and then there's small tolerations. And so we'll kind of talk about that too, I think, as we have this conversation. But that's the definition. Is that how you remember it?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I think back to the things that were plaguing me before, that describes them very, very well. And in fact, many of them are, I took care of a lot of them.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we should probably talk about that here in a few minutes, because I would love to know what you have. And I have too, for sure. Which
is so good, right? That feels very rewarding. But what didn't happen is, I took care of that first batch, and I felt really good about myself. And then I didn't keep the running list of tolerations. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because it's almost like a lifestyle.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
It didn't take.
Yeah.
It didn't take, and it should have taken.
Yeah.
And so that was frustrating to me. And so now I'm left with more tolerations, and
now we're reviewing them.
And now we're reviewing them already, right?
We're going to review every toleration that Pete Wright has.
Oh, goodness.
That's not that. We're not going to do that. I won't put you on the spot like that.
But it's so good, right? These tolerations are so good to really address, and you feel so good when you have addressed them. It's hard to believe that we let them build up.
It is, and it's easy to build up because they become wallpaper, and we ignore them and avoid them, and we procrastinate, and we do all these things. But, you brought up that it feels good when you do them. And I think that, it's important to kind of talk about the benefits of what happens to us when we do eliminate these tolerations. And ideally, if you can make it like a lifestyle, right, where you actually are consciously always sort of eliminating this negative energy, what that could actually do for a person. Something that you pointed out is it feels good and it makes us happier people. Right?
Yes.
I mean, there's just more energy, more positive energy around us when we're not feeling like we're tolerating things.
Right.
I also, for me, I think that there's a freedom that, okay, I've taken care of these two things that were on my to-do list that have been bugging me. I finally took care of them. And now there's this freedom for me to just not have to worry about it anymore. Like you can kind of, what would it be? Like you're just sort of swimming in your own success. Like You're like, yes, I did it.
Yes,
Now I can go shopping. Now I can go hang out with my friend, and not have that drain of, I need to go to the post office. I need to get my taxes done. I mean, I'm sure that was a toleration for people right now. I mean, we're 2
I hope
weeks.
it's not a toleration by now.
Oh, I'm sure it is.
Hopefully people are taking it on, but yes.
Yeah, but I'm willing to bet.
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet high stakes on that one, that there are people that haven't done them yet.
Right.
But they're tolerating it. It's bugging them. It's just driving them crazy probably right now.
I think the freedom that comes from taking on your tolerations and actually checking things off your list is not just, how good you feel at getting something done. It's that you open headspace to do other new great things.
Yes, more creative, or be more creative. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind, because generally these kinds of the tolerations are one-time things, and for me, everything on my list was a one-time thing. It was something that was in the way.
Ones.
Well,
Those are
not
the easy
even
ones.
well easy, but some of them were really hard one-time things. Some of them were difficult, either physically demanding or creatively demanding. But once I was finished, I was finished. I didn't need to go back and think about them again.
Right.
And so that's an important thing to recognize, that it's not like I'm thinking about in terms of tolerations. It's not like I'm thinking about, gosh, I have to work time into my week every week indefinitely. It's, I need to work time into my schedule until this thing is done, and then I get that time back.
Well, and what I mean by easy, and I think this is probably a good clarification, is that, the things that were on our list a few years ago were more of those one-time things. Like, I can do this in the afternoon. I can do this, I just need to order this piece. Like, you have that stove that you were supposed to fix.
Yeah, you're going to go there already?
I am going to go there. But what I mean by the harder ones are the things like, I hate my job. Now, that's a toleration that somebody is probably feeling, but they can't just fix it. Like, they can't just quit their job. So there's a set of actions or planning and thought that they're going to have to do to get rid of or eliminate that toleration. Does that make sense?
Well, sort of. I guess that's where we may differ, is that I don't see that one as a toleration.
How do you see it?
I don't categorize something as sort of significant, kind of emotionally, psychologically, financially significant as career, as a toleration. I would never classify that as a toleration. A toleration is something that if I don't get it done, that's okay, but I honestly could live with it. And you'll see, as I talk about my tolerations, I've been living with some of them for a long time, but I would never see myself actually living with and categorizing a toleration an unsatisfactory work environment. Eventually, that's going to take its toll to the point where I'm sick and I have to move on. None of my tolerations are things that make me physically sick. Mm-hmm. And I've been there. I've been in that position of having a job that was so distasteful that it was having an impact on me physically, and I had to take care of it. It was not something that I would ever have categorized as something that I can get along without, dealing with.
Well, and see, again, that's where I guess I see a toleration as being something that you can eliminate. But I disagree, Pete. I mean, I still think that there are bigger things to tackle that aren't just quick one-step things that people are tolerating. I mean, and not only I guess the job is one example, but what if you don't like where you live? What if you want a different house? Those are things that you may be tolerating because they're things that that's the situation that you're in right now, but it's going to take a little bit more time and planning to get where you want to be.
Yeah, see, I think those are significant projects, and a toleration. Scanning the recipes that are floating around my bookshelf is a toleration. Scanning my kids' back artwork is a toleration. It's something that it may take me several weeks to get through it, and in fact, it did. But finding a new house, moving, thinking about, bringing into all the things that I would have to consider, the schools, the health and safety issues. I mean, those are things that I think they raise the priority outside of toleration. I just wouldn't use that word to ever
and that might be
them.
what it is. That might be what it is. It's just the definition of how you're seeing the word. Yeah. So there you have it, folks. We disagree. No.
So where do you stand on your tolerations?
Where do I stand on the ones that we had back then?
Yeah, and I'll tell you, because mine come from April 22nd, 2013, and the show was episode 109. And we're now on episode 201.
Do you have the notes in front of you? Because I can't even remember exactly what my tolerations were back then.
I have mine. Yes, I do. In fact, I have yours. Would you like me to run through them? Your top 10 greatest hits?
You top 5, because I don't think we have time to do top 10.
All right.
But I can tell you my garage is still...
That was number 1.
Yeah, that's still a major issue. That comes and goes.
Yeah. It's funny how it's something that you can tackle and resolve, and then it becomes a toleration again.
Exactly.
There's something in there that is tricky. Put actual pictures in frames in office.
I did do that.
Good.
That's done.
Put up bulletin board key holder in laundry room.
Actually, we decided to do something different, so that never happened. But I did something different.
Fair. Put shelf up in daughter's room.
We did, and then it fell down.
And now
it needs to be put back up. But now we have to paint the room first. So we're waiting to put it back up until it's painted. But that could technically be a toleration because we haven't painted it yet. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. I forgot that was on there.
Have you defrosted and cleaned out your garage freezer?
Well, let's see. We had it defrosted on purpose when the plug-in didn't get plugged in and it defrosted on its own.
You like it when there's sort of divine intervention in your tolerations list. That takes care of itself. We lost a whole freezer full of food, but the tolerations checked off the list.
That's right. But I can tell you that that's not an issue. I wouldn't have that on my list today.
Well, those are your top 5. So I think of any of those, the garage is still kind of a significant hindrance.
It is, and it's actually on my list right now as we speak. So what are your top 5? What was your top 5?
Okay, number 1 is, you brought this up. Research and replace my broken knobs on my oven. Now, many people wrote in about this toleration, and I actually received some great suggestions about my knob problem, and I acted on several of them. A couple of them didn't work. The knobs were very hard to come by. In the end, this toleration took care of itself because the knobs became less of a problem than the fact that the oven broke, and now it only cooks at 1,000 degrees. So you turn it on, and it immediately goes up to as hot as it can possibly get. I can cook one thing in it, which is pizza. So when we make a pizza, I can cook it in. But in order to cook the pizza, I have to put it in, turn it on cold. So I put the pizza in cold, and then I have to go back and open the oven every 2 minutes or so to let out some heat, and then close it. And so you have to do this little gentle dance with managing the temperature, manually.
Wow.
Which is not a great way to cook anything. So we have been living for some time, and by some time I mean over a year, cooking out of we have a really nice toaster oven for a family of 4 and our grill outside. So we do a lot of grilling, as you can imagine. We eat grilled stuff all the time, and a lot of toast.
Mm-hmm.
But so that is now the toleration. The knobs I'm going to check off the list because now I need a whole new oven. Yeah.
Okay, so you're checking off the knobs, and now is
number one is I need a new oven.
You need a new oven, yeah. Okay.
Research and potentially replace the dishwasher. So the dishwasher at the time of this toleration also was a thing that was not working up to snuff. It was not really cleaning the dishes, and has since taken care of itself because it broke completely, and now I need a new dishwasher. So I'm telling you honestly, I live in a kitchen with no functioning oven or dishwasher. I'm washing dishes by hand. Now, this is sort of a first world thing. We actually kind of like the manual doing the dishes process. We enjoy that process. It's kind of a nice family time. Everybody helps. It's kind of a good thing. But it's still a pain in the rear over the long term. And we recognize we just need to go out and buy a dishwasher. But our oven is now a higher priority, and we are on an active search to replace our nuclear hot oven. So
yeah, no
that
kidding.
Was one. Research and replace horrifyingly loud turbine sound that comes from my washing machine on rinse cycle. Something is just not right there. That was number 3. That I can say confidently is resolved, not because the washing machine and dryer died, but because we did finally replace them. So
nice.
I call that a win.
Yes.
Scan the aging stack of Precious Kids artwork that is beginning to ferment on my bookshelf. I can say confidently that was resolved, and then my wife found another stack of Precious Kids artwork that was not in my office, and so that is now back on my list.
Nice.
But we have searched the house. Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
We have searched the house, and we have found no more Precious Kids artwork.
That's the final.
Yes.
Okay, that's good, because that wasn't very much, actually. I saw it on the bookshelf, but it wasn't much.
No, it really is not. And a lot of it is it's like paint. So the papers, they kind of wilt. So it looks like more than it is even. It's not actually that much. So
good.
That will be easy. And the last one was make a donation trip with the second and third layers of clothes in my kids' drawers, the clothes that never get washed, just compressed under new outfits from grandma. And that was resolved. That was a very easy toleration. We just finally had to sit down and do it. Mm-hmm. But, I had some other things on there, Wrestle the Grapevines, cookbook shelf, all of those things were tolerations that I have taken care of. And so I can, I look through 6 through 10, and I can say all of those were done. Yeah. So I feel pretty good. I mean, in terms of my tolerations, I think out of 10, 3 of them are still sort of significant.
And my number 1 is still significant.
Yeah,
so what does that say? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Good. So do you have a new list of tolerations then?
I do, and some of them are kind of work related. I am counting the dishwasher and the oven on both of those as number 1 and number 2 on the list. You've already mentioned the third one, which is rashpixel.fm. Just being by myself, it's tough to code an entirely new website and get listings for all the shows that I do. It takes a lot of time, and but I see that as a toleration. At some point, the back import of content is going to be something I won't have to do anymore, and that will free up a lot of time. So those are kind of my big 3 right now. But I am struggling with as I always struggle with on these big projects, which is the ADHD angle of this stuff. I find I can be really productive if I'm in hyperfocus mode at the expense of many other things. But I'm doing so much work not to be in hyperfocus mode, because I don't want to. I don't like the costs that come with that. that it's really slow going, and that's a frustrating trade-off.
So slow going because of why? Like because you don't want to spend too much time researching an oven, or like
no, it's not even the oven. I'm thinking mostly about this website right now because
the website.
Yeah, because I know that's for me, right? That's for the Rash Pixel end of the business. And while there is benefit to my partners, right, the people that I'm podcasting with, like you, there is a benefit to me doing this work. It's not an immediate benefit, and it's something that comes as a second priority to everything else that I'm doing for my clients, right? And so I need to balance, to find that careful balance of, I have way too much back work to do on this website, but I can't do it right now because there are other much more pressing needs. And so that's a hard thing. When what I want to do is check this off the list, right? I want to devote, a week to it all day, every day straight, and not think about anything else. But I know that would come with some frustration, and I haven't figured out how to work that time into my schedule other than, just 15 minutes every day. And so that's a challenge. So that's one of those things. I know that about my behavior. I know that about my mindset, and that's something I've learned over the last several years of kind of practice and conscientious effort. But it doesn't make it any less frustrating to face.
Well, and also, I could be wrong, but it's not just the ADHD and the hyperfocusing. It's just the plain time to do it. What you're saying, you have all these other priorities and things that have to be done. Yeah. And because this isn't really a hard deadline, it's for you, then it's a priority issue just in general of when do you even set the 15 minutes a day to do it as well, right? Which can certainly be an issue. So what has been your plan so far? Is that what you're doing? Just setting time every day? Have you set a day?
Yeah, I'm setting time every day. I'm challenged right now. The worlds collide, and so right now I'm really just setting a little bit of time every day to take little bites out of it, one show at a time, to get things caught up. The other toleration that's on my list is I take a personal sort of photo trip. I try to cover one story each year that is just for me. We've talked about the Buffalo thing. We've done the Year of Thanks project we've talked about. And so that's another thing. This year is moving awfully quickly, and I don't have a trip planned. So that's one of those things that I'm working on, and I'm stressing a little bit about, because it's raising in intensity. I don't want to let this go because I love this part of my life and career. Right. But again, finding that time to prioritize that's causing me that sort of emotional spin. As I look at so I feel like I'm at this strange place. We've talked about this idea of vulnerability over the past couple of weeks, and I'm at this place where I know and have practiced many of these behaviors, and I feel like I'm on the cusp of a little bit of a trough of that valley of despair, where I feel like I know the answers. I've practiced these things, that prioritization techniques, and yet I am representative of just how hard it is to face that reality of so many things you want to do, so many things you need to do, so many things you have to do to take care of family and health and safety stuff, that it can cause a lot of noise. Like the signal to noise ratio gets off in your brain, and it feels like the window is opening and you can hear the party outside, because you get sort of overwhelmed, or at least in my case, I get overwhelmed with so many things, so many choices, that it's easy to let the noise trickle in, and that's hard to hear. That was how, I think it's been a long time since we talked about that was how my daughter had actually described it, that when and I have pilfered that metaphor from her, since we first had that conversation, which was that for her, and she is taking a medication for it, and for her, when she takes that medication and she feels it kick in, it feels like the window is closing and she can't hear the party outside anymore. And I think that metaphor works really well, particularly in the reverse, that when I feel stress and when these little tolerations start to add up, I can feel the window starting to open.
Well, and what would it do for you to just get that trip planned? To even just to get the dates, maybe not even to what you're going to do or where you're going to go. I wonder if that would help quiet the noise at all. It may not make it go away, but like that. What is that little action that you could take right now that would help you get a little bit closer to having it be quiet. I like the analogy. I mean, it's good.
Yeah, it works really well.
Good.
And I think that gets to it. Like, what can I do to start breaking up the these tolerations into smaller pieces? And that's the thing that we talked about before, that and I think it goes back to why I classify tolerations as the lesser of the bigger projects. It's because even though they may take a little bit of time, but they are generally one or a couple of steps. Once it goes beyond a couple of steps, then it becomes a bigger project. And this trip is kind of right in between, because I can set the dates and I can lock that in on the calendar, right? So people know when I'm going to be gone. When my family, they know when I'm not going to be available, for this personal project. Clients know when I'm not going to be available. I don't have to do it all at once. And that's what the noise says to me. Right, that's what the noise does. It says you have to do this all at once, and if you don't do it all at once, you're failing.
Which is not true, and you know that logically, but that's still what the tape, the recording of the tape that's going through your mind. Right. Well, one thing that I want to bring up, because I think that this is important, is you've identified, and this is what people need to do, is kind of identify what those tolerations are. Because when you're adding that stress, you're talking about, once these get built up, there's this amount of stress, this overwhelm. And so one of the action steps that I would recommend for people who are listening today is to identify what those things are. Is it the trip that, Pete's talking about? Is it my garage? What are the things that are really just bugging you and eating at you a little bit, and then figuring out what that step would be to kind of, like you said, calm that noise. What would it be? What do I need to do to take back control of the situation and feel a little bit better about where I'm at with it? You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Would be a great thing, I think, for people to do. We also have a toleration worksheet too. Don't we still have that online?
Yeah, we do. It's still up on the website. We'll put a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Where people can kind of identify what it is that they would like to do, what the action steps are. I think all of that would be just a helpful tool for people to use.
I do. I think, one of the things that we talked about, and that I ended up writing in my blog post the last time we did this, the blog post that we put up on takecontroladhd.com, is that, right now I go through my day pretending these things don't exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we avoid them.
Right. It can only go so far. And I think that's when that noise kicks in.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a really important conversation to keep dipping back into and make it a part of your daily or weekly or monthly review, is to make sure that these things are visible, that they're present, that your list is up somewhere where you can't hide from it. Because that's I think where I went wrong the last time around, which was I was able to hide from it. I took care of the first few because the list, I was done and moved on, and then was able to hide. And that's the kiss of death in terms of, my attention.
Well, it goes back to, the intention, and it goes back to, making this become kind of a lifestyle of sorts. I know that seems weird. Like, why would you have a tolerations list as a lifestyle? But, until you kind of have that ingrained, it is important to have it in front of you, because,
right.
like you, I forgot too. It wasn't a priority, but I live with these tolerations all the time. Yeah. Every day. Something either is lingering or something new has popped up and needs to be taken care of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff, Pete.
Good stuff. Right. This is our vulnerability. Just coming to terms with the things that, that we need to fix. I can do this. We had such wonderful feedback from last week. I don't think I've ever gotten this much, as much email on any of our digital episodes as came in last week.
And can I just point something out?
Yeah.
It was episode number 200.
It was. That last week's was episode 200. We didn't say anything about it.
Mm-mm.
Feels like an incredible
But you've gotten, but we didn't say anything about it. But you've got a lot of feedback too. A lot of people wanted to talk to you about this light.
The blue light issue. Mm-hmm. And I just I first of all, obviously want to say thank you, because there was such great stuff in it. The real issue is we had a couple of posts. One from Mrs. J was talking about the switching to that I switched to the Kindle because of blue light issues. There absolutely are dimmers that fix the screen. The blue light screen filter plus is available from Google Play. It's if you're on an Android device, you can download that from Google Play, and Mrs. J recommends that one. So the blue light screen filter plus. I'm on iOS, so that obviously doesn't work for me. A number of people also wrote in about Flux, which is an app for the Mac that will automatically change the color tone of your display as you're using it throughout the day. And so it adjusts the quality and the tone of light to your eyes, and so you kind of reduce that blue light at the end of the day. It makes it a warmer kind of light. And so there were two things that this particular writer recommended. One was from Zen Tech for iOS devices, and you can put this filter on and then on your screens, and that will help block the blue light. And the other one was justgetflux.com for your Mac. And Just Get Flux, I like the idea of it and have tried it, but the problem is I have a color calibrated monitor, and because I do so much photography retouching, I can't have my monitor changing color tones on me, because then I can't see what is really there, or what I don't know what to expect. So that tool doesn't necessarily work for me all that well, unless somebody has particular ideas. I don't really have a problem with my computer monitor, because I don't use my computer in bed anymore all that much. We just don't bring our laptops to bed anymore, and so that's not one that concerns me. I will say finally that this idea of, I actually really like my Kindle. And so as much as I appreciate all of these filters and things, I'm not a big fan of actually sticking stuff to my iPad.
Right.
While I do love the idea that I could use my iPad, I've really come to love my Kindle, and I love the weight of it. It's very, very light. The battery lasts forever, and so I'm really very happy with it. And so I'm not sure how well I did. I should say I did order a set of the ZenTech filters, so I'm going to give it a shot. But I do like the Kindle. I can't imagine actually going back as my regular reading device at the end of the day to something else. So that's it. That's a follow. Thank you, everybody, for writing in. There's great suggestions, and I hope they help others. And I'll maybe on an upcoming digital episode, I'll do some follow-up once I have a chance to play with these ZenTech filters. So thanks for the recommendations, everybody.
Perfect. Right. Sounds great.
That's it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright, and we'll catch you next week on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.